Okay, so in the last lecture we saw that what are the informations we get from UV visible spectroscopy. That is, first thing is the position of the absorption, that is the energy of the peak, and the intensity. Intensity gives us the information about the allowedness. Right? Now that was general discussion. Now we see that how to characterize the peaks, right? And what type of energy gaps we expect, and what are the transitions, actual transition, how to assign the name to the kind of transitions. Now let us see, suppose you have, say, a compound, say ethane, right? So in this case all are sigma bonds, so they are all sigma bonds are there. Okay, so if it is a molecular orbital, if you can draw the molecular orbital, there is all sigma orbitals, sigma bonding orbitals and sigma anti-bonding orbitals. The numbers will be different, but there will only be sigma bonds, right? And there is of course no lone pair on any of the atoms here. So as such, this one will look like sigma bonding, so sigma anti-bonding. What I am drawing here is the highest occupied orbital and the lowest unoccupied orbital. Both will be sigma in nature, right? One is bonding and another will be anti-bonding. Okay, so this kind of structure will be there. So if you can excite this molecule with light, right, irradiation, if that frequency of light matches with this energy gap, then there will be a transition, right? And that transition we'll call it what? We'll call this sigma stars transition. We'll name it like this, sigma star transition. Now, as we have discussed, right, in our previous module also, that these alkanes are colorless. Even if you have double bond here, that will also be colorless. Why it is colorless, we will come to that in few moments. Okay, now as this is the only possible transition here, sigma to sigma star, right? Now this band appears in very high energy. Very high energy means very low wavelength, right? Higher the energy, lower will be the wavelength. Now low the wavelength, so it is not possible for us to measure. Why? Because usually this kind of transition, sigma transition, actually takes place, right, well below that our 150 or something like that, right, below that. So if it is below 150 and all that, it is difficult to see these transitions. Why? Because now see, if you are measuring, forget about the solvent, forget about the cell material, there is air in the instrument, right? And air has oxygen. Now oxygen actually absorbs, molecular oxygen start absorbing from, anything below 200 nanometer, right? It starts absorbing below 200 nanometer. As such, this measurement, these peaks which comes below 200 nanometer can only be observed if the the instrument has facility to perform the experiment in vacuum, right? If it is in vacuum condition, so this region actually is called vacuum UV region. Vacuum UV region, right? and obviously these sigma sigma star transitions are of less use for us, because generally our instruments are 200 to 800 900 nanometers, right? So if that transition do not fall in this, we seldom get any useful informations, right? So transitions are possible and always happen, but it is of less use for us if they happen in this particular regions, right? Vacuum regions and all that. Now, so in alkanes, the only possible transition is sigma to sigma star. Right? That is clear. Now see, if you just replace one of the hydrogen with say amine. Now if you say there is an ammonia, amine group. Right? Now this nitrogen have a lone pair. This lone pair, as we know, is not taking part in bonding, and as such they are called non-bonding electron. Non-bonding electron, right? And as such they will neither gain in energy lose in energy. So they do not have any corresponding anti-bonding orbital, right? They are denoted as N, right? And this is also filled because here the lone pair is there, right? And it will have same energy as that of the orbital in isolated nitrogen atom or ammonia, right? Because they are not involved in bonding. Now see, now there are two possibilities. In ethane there is only one possibility from sigma to sigma star, but in aminoethane, right, ethylamine, there is two possibilities. One is sigma to sigma star, which will again happen in that higher energy region, which is not very useful to us. But now there is a possibility of N non-bonding to sigma star. This is termed as N to sigma star transition. Right? N to sigma star transition. This will be, as it is seen, this will be of lower energy than that of this our sigma sigma star. Right? Okay. So now we have two types of transition, and there is possibility that this falls in above 200. It may or it may not, depending on the compound we are taking. But of course now this is a low energy than that of our that is sigma sigma star transition. Okay. It happens around. Okay. Now people are joining till now. Okay. Now see, now if there is a double bond here, suppose now we have a amine and a double bond also here, right? Or if you say that you do not have a, okay, now let us consider the double bond along with this nitrogen first. Okay. Now if you have a double bond here, now there is another type of orbital, that is pi orbital. And in pi orbital we also have pi star orbital. Now these pi orbitals, as sigma bonds are more closely held by the, strongly held, they are more stable, though sigma bonds, so sigma molecular orbitals are lower in energy, and pi bonds are much loosely held than the sigma, so they are a bit higher in energy, but not as much as non-bonding. So this is our pi orbital now, and of course this is again filled, right? And correspondingly we have a pi star orbital which is lower than sigma star but higher than non-bonding pi star. But it is not always the case, but mostly it is higher than this non-bonding electrons. Okay, now we have a lot more possibilities. What we have, pi to pi star, right, n to pi star, and sigma to pi star, right? So we have this kind of possibilities here. See, so we have now, in addition to, we always have this sigma star possibility. We have this sigma to n to sigma star possibility, and now we have pi to pi star, right? And we also have n to pi star, right? N to pi star. Okay. Now sigma to pi will not occur, right? Sigma to pi transitions will not occur because they are of different symmetry. Okay, now see, so these are the 4 possible transitions that are occurring in a compound which have pi bond along with a non-bonding electron. That is, suppose it has, we have written it ammonia. You can also write, we can also have, if you have an hydroxyl group, right? Because these also have lone pairs. So these kind of transitions are possible for this. But if you have only an alkene, right, only an alkene, you will not have this group, right? So in alkene, what are the possible transitions you will have? You will just omit the n ones, right? So you will have sigma to sigma star transition, right, and pi to pi star transition, right? Okay. Now see, what are the relative energies, right? If you see the relative energies, this is the highest energy, right? And then comes n to sigma star, and then is pi to pi star, and the lowest energy is n to pi star. For example, suppose say we have this acetone. So see, acetone. See, we have pi bond here and also a lone pair here. So we can have all these type of transitions here, right? And in fact, in acetone, we see transitions at 166, right, at 189 and 279. Now can you easily designate which one is which? Right? You can do that, right? For example, we need not consider this one, right? Because this is well below this one also. So these are the 3 transitions which correspond to this corresponding 166, 189 and 279. Now we can easily assign them. Now these are of course in lambdas, that means in nanometers, right? So higher the energy, lower will be the wavelength, right? So this is of highest energy. So this is the our n to sigma star transition. This is intermediate energy. So this is our pi pi star transition, and this is of the lowest energy, that is our n to pi star transition. Okay. So this is how we learn to designate the peaks, what we see in our UV visual spectrometer. Okay. Now see, what is this things called? Right. These are usually called end absorption peaks. These n pi star absorptions, n to sigma star absorptions are found for all the organic molecules which contains oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur and all these things, right, near about 200, right? So these transitions are usually called end absorptions. Okay. Now let us see what two more or three terms, right, which will be new to you. This chromophore. What is a chromophore? Now, chromophore are groups, right? Groups which have which have absorption capacities. I mean, a characteristic absorption, right? If you have an isolated that group, that any functional group, right? It can be alkene, alkyne, aldehyde ketones. I mean, your carbonyl, amine. I mean, yes, amide, right? Whatever it is, if it is an isolated functional group, right, and not in conjugation with any other group, but it exhibits characteristic absorption in the UV visible region, right? In the region of above 200 or nearly about that, right? That region, then we called it a chromophore. Now, see, I think I have it here. Yeah. These are the chromophores. So here are the list of chromophores. Because as we have seen that sigma star transition, it's of no use, right? So what we are intended is about these chromophores, the other bands. For pi star, n pi star, these are easily observed in this UV visible region. That's why we are interested in them. And these here are few common chromophores. There are more than that, right? So this, see, pi star, this is alkene, right? Ethylene. If you just have an ethylene, right, it absorbs around 171 nanometer, which is attributed to its pi star transition, because there is no n non-bonding orbital here. And see, the solvent here is of course vapor state, because other solvents would absorb it, right? Okay. So in ethine or acetylene, there are two types of pi star transition, right? You can easily see there are two types of pi star transition, because there are two types of pi bonds. Okay. Similarly, this acetone or this aldehyde, acetaldehyde or acetone, these carbonyl compounds, we just saw, we have already designated them, right? This different type of transition to the corresponding wavelengths, right? Now, these are isolated systems, that means they are not in conjugation, and ketone like acetone will have this one, right? But if they are in conjugation, the values will change. How the values will change, we will just see. But before that, let us look at this E max. What is this? These are the epsilon values. If you remember, in the last lecture we saw that these are called molar extinction coefficient, right? Molar extinction coefficient or molar absorptivity, right? They show the probability of transition, right? The probability, the allowedness. You see in acetone, right, these allowednesses, right? This n sigma star is highly allowed, whereas these is very lowly allowed. This n pi star, though these are in near UV region, but they are not that of same intense as that of this n pi star transitions, right? Okay, so these are several chromophores, and you clearly see in the last entry here, this is azomethane, right? Or azoethane. This is azoethane, right? It should be azoethane, not, I mean, what is this? Okay, so if you see this last entry here, right, this one, this azo compounds, right? So if you remember, you have learned about diazo compounds, right? Diazo compounds, right? So this kind of group, if it is present in a compound, they have, if a single compound without any conjugation, then they absorbed around 338 nanometer, right? See, which is very close to the visible range. Now if there is more conjugation, then they fall in the visible range and they give a characteristic color. Now this was chromophores. There is some other thing which is called auxochromes. Auxochromes. These auxochromes are substances which themselves does not absorb in that UV visible region characteristic absorption, right? But they, when attached to a given chromophore, they usually shift the absorption, right? They do not absorb, they do not absorb above 200 nanometer, but when attached to a chromophore, right, they shift the absorption of the chromophore to longer wavelength, right? Like examples are, say, OH, right, NH2, sulfohydryl, right, SH, this kind of groups. Due to this lone pair, which will be in conjugation with that those of our chromophore, they shift this peaks to this longer wavelength. For example, see, this is our benzene. This absorbed at, say, 255 nanometer, right? But when this amine group is attached, right, this aniline actually absorbs at 280 nanometer, right? 280 nanometer. This is due to the introduction of this non-bonding orbital here, right? Because you already know that this pi and pi star was here and pi is there, right? So I am not writing the sigma. So from this pi to pi star, this was the energy. This was the only possible. Now you are introducing a non-bonding electron, a non-bonding orbital here. Now you have this one. So this is our auxochromes, how they help in absorption at longer wavelength without themselves absorbing. So now interestingly, see, anilinium ion. What is anilinium ion? Anilinium ion is, this is our anilinium ion. See, now there is no non-bonding electron available because it is protonated, right? So there is no lone pair, no non-bonding electron available. So this actually again reverts back to 255 or 254 nanometer, right? So see, they are of course same thing, right? Because they have down, there is no non-bonding electron available. As such, it again goes back to nearly that of benzene, right? So you can easily see the importance of the non-bonding electrons and the auxochromes in UV visual spectroscopy. Okay, now let us see what is the effect of conjugation. Okay, before that, let us first discuss the effect of solvent. Right? Okay, now suppose we have this N non-bonding orbital, this is pi, this is sigma star, say, and this is pi star. Now see, suppose this is the ground state. Okay, this is the ground state configuration. Now in the excited state, right, we do not know the relative energies, right, how they are organized, right. Now if the solvent, right, actually stabilizes the ground state more than the excited state, right, then what will happen? And if it is reversed, then what is the effect? See, if it is more polar, see the ground state, suppose you have this carbonyl, right. Now we know what is the contribution of this structure. We know that it is delta plus, and here it is oxygen delta minus. This is the ground state. That means this is a polar, there is a polarity, right? This is polar. Now if you have a polar solvent here, then it will be stabilized, right? That means this anti-bonding, or I mean the non-bonding orbitals will be much more stabilized, and as such the transitions that is occurring from end pi star to end sigma star will now be what? Will shift to shorter wavelength, longer energy, because now this is stabilized mode. As such, it will move to shorter wavelength. But if somehow you can stabilize this sigma star orbital, right? It is stabilized, sigma star orbital is more stabilized in the excited state, then this will now come down, and as such the energy gap will decrease and it will move to longer wavelength. Now we will not going into details because there are several examples of this. Just I am giving you this idea that this I mean the relative stabilization of the ground state and the excited state, actually these shifts can occur. That's why we have different kinds of a bit different from going from compound to compound. There is a little bit difference because all ketones will not absorb in 279 because there are different other factors also. Now one more interesting thing is this conjugation. Now what if we have discussed these chromophores without any conjugation, right? These are valued which are without conjugation. Right? But what will happen if there is conjugation? See, ethylene, we already knew that ethylene, isolated ethylene absorbed around this one. Right? Butadiene, 1,3-butadiene, the lambda max is lowered. Right? See, you are increasing the conjugation, the lambda max is increasing, means the energy gap is decreasing, and this one. And this beta carotene, that example we took while discussing the particle in a box problem, you see now it is in 600 and 465. Right? Now what is 465? If it absorbs in that region, it will emit reddish color, right? It is absorbing around this green, right, blue green region, and so it is giving out this red orange type of color. And see, this epsilon is also increasing, the probability of transition is also increasing. Why this is happening? If you remember the particle in a box problem, right, there was energy in this case. So for ethylene it would be pi star orbital. I have to draw it much more here, right? So not here, it is here, pi star, right? So this was the energy gap. If you have butadiene, then you have one here, 4 orbitals. So now this is the gap. The gap is decreasing, right? We know because that energy gap was inversely proportional to the length, right, and the mass also. So higher the energy, so as you are going, so suppose these are bonding and these are anti-bonding, right? So now the energy gap is even more decreasing. So in beta carotene, the energy gap is such that it falls in the visible region. So this is the effect of conjugation. Any chromophore, if it is in conjugation with another chromophore, right? So that will show a shift towards the longer wavelength, and there will be increase in intensity also. Right? See, in this ketone, suppose this is acetone, the two possibles are n pi star and pi pi star, which are most common, right? The lowest two energies. The pi sigma star is not shown. The n pi star had 280 and it was only epsilon was only of tens, right? Between 10 to 20. Now, if that double bond, carbon oxygen double bond, is in conjugation with a carbon carbon double bond, see, this is now shifted. Right? This pi pi star, as these pi electrons are now in conjugation, this pi pi star is shifted to 213. See the shift in nearly 20 nanometer shift is there, right? And see the increase in intensity from 900 to 7000. So nearly 10 times increase is there, right? So this is the effect of conjugation. Right? Now we have seen increase in on the left hand, the right, on the longer wavelength side, and increase in conjugation. And we have also seen that if you can stabilize the ground state of the non-bonding orbital, then there will be a shift on the shorter wavelength also. Now this summarized can be seen as like this. Suppose this is the our absorption value and this is our lambda, right? If you have a peak something like this, right? Now if it is shifted towards the longer wavelength, then you say it is a bathochromic shift, okay, or red shift, right? Because it is shifting towards the red wavelength. If you have a shift towards the shorter wavelength, then it is called a hypsochromic shift or blue shift, because it is shifting towards the shorter blue wavelength. Now if that shift is accompanied by an increase in intensity, then it is called hyperchromic shift, right? That means increase in epsilon, right, or intensity. And if it decreases in intensity, due to that adding of chromophore and all that, then it is called hypochromic shift. It is decrease in epsilon, that is intensity. Okay, so in these cases what we saw, these were the cases where we saw both bathochromic shift accompanied with a hyperchromic shift. Okay, so now there are several rules, right? We will not go into details, but I am just introducing it, that there are Woodward-Fisher rules. Woodward-Fisher rules. Woodward-Fisher rules. So in any book you will find that they say that, see, these bathochromic shifts and hyperchromic shifts, suppose you know these things, right? you can add up, right? So for an additional double bond, if you have conjugated so this has increased from 175 to 217, so there is an increase of 25 plus 17, that is nearly 35, right? 25 plus 17, so it is 45, right? So in increments, Woodward-Hoffmann rule actually shows us that what are the increments of these things, right? So if there is a given compound, you can calculate it. So these calculations, I will omit this. We can discuss it in if time permits in another lecture, but there are several set of rules and different values. If you have to remember them, and you can easily calculate that values, right? I will show one or two examples maybe later, but for today let us stop here, and